On August 6, 1945, the U.S. dropped Little Boy, a nuclear weapon on the city of Hiroshima, Japan. On August 9, 1945, a second nuclear weapon, Fat Man, was dropped on the city of Nagasaki, Japan. The two bombings killed greater than 200,000 people, most of whom were civilians, and World War II ended shortly thereafter. Weapons have changed over the years. In the beginning, humans warred with simple things, like rocks, wooden clubs, and stone knives as weapons. Then later, guns and bombs. In 1945, scientists unleashed the nuclear power of atoms by creating a nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapon, also called an atomic bomb, nuclear warhead, nuclear bomb, or a weapon of mass destruction, or nuke, is an explosive device containing radioactivity that is designed to release high-energy radiation in an exceptionally large explosion by merging or splitting atoms. The two nuclear weapons dropped on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had an explosive yield of the equivalent of 15 to 20 kilotons of TNT. Many of today's nuclear bombs are more deadly, having explosive yields of the equivalent of 1,000 kilotons of TNT. 9 countries: Russia, United States, China, France, United Kingdom, Pakistan, India, Israel, North Korea, possess and store a total of roughly 14,000 nuclear weapons. Russia and the United States possess roughly 90% of the world's nuclear weapons, with approximately 6,000 weapons each. A nuclear bomb, when exploded, releases huge amounts of radioactivity into the environment which cannot be seen. The only way we can detect it is with a special instrument such as a Geiger counter. When energy from radioactivity is present in the air, it is called radiation. The yellow and black propeller symbol, called the trefoil, is used to denote the presence of radiation. Used judiciously, radiation can be helpful. For example, it is used for X-ray studies in medicine to diagnose a broken bone or treat cancer. What are the effects of a nuclear explosion? Nuclear weapons have an exceptionally large explosive blast, destroying everything in its immediate radius for several miles. Radioactive material is sent into the sky and then rains down on the Earth as radioactive contamination, also called fallout radiation. This fallout radiation contaminates the Earth so that people cannot live in those areas for an indefinite period of time. The bomb's immediate effects on the area of a nuclear bomb blast for those who survive the initial explosion, depending on the amount of radiation exposure received, will experience health effects such as changes to the blood cells, nausea, vomiting, burns to the skin, hair loss, sterilization, and eventual death can occur within hours to days to weeks following the exposure. The bomb's long-term effects are predominantly an increased risk of cancer. Things can go wrong with possessing and storing nuclear weapons. There could be intentional use. Political leaders could intentionally respond inappropriately to a perceived threat with the use of nuclear weapons or escalate a conflict by using nuclear weapons. Nuclear missiles have almost been launched by mistake before. An accident could happen. The term broken arrow is used to describe any incident in which a nuclear weapon is lost, stolen, or mistakenly detonated. The U.S. has experienced more than 30 broken arrows incidents. The U.S. and Russia have lost approximately 24 nuclear weapons at sea. A weapon could be stolen or misfired. Nuclear weapons are stored securely, but there is always concern that a terrorist organization might attempt to steal one of these weapons for their own intentions. Modern nuclear launch technology is based on using computer servers, software, and codes, but a technological glitch or hacking of software is always a concern. Nuclear weapon accidents have occurred. The probability of these accidents is too high for comfort. Money spent on the nuclear weapons arsenal could be spent better. A collective $72.9 billion was spent on nuclear weapons by the world's nuclear-armed nations in 2019, according to a report by the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICAN. Even more is spent to maintain an old, decaying nuclear arsenal infrastructure. This money could be used instead to help relieve hunger, poverty, fight climate change, and address other global health issues. A nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Joint Soviet-United States Statement, Geneva Summit Meeting, 1985. Nuclear weapons pose unacceptable risks to humanity and the environment. Most countries in the world have rejected the idea of owning nuclear weapons. They recognize that nuclear weapons make them less safe, not more secure. Nuclear disarmament, which is the task of reducing and abolishing nuclear weapons, is the goal. Human survival requires settling our differences peacefully. Conventional weapons have always inflicted terrible damage, but it wasn't until 1945, when nuclear weapons were developed, that the ability to wipe humanity off the face of Earth became a possibility. It is clear that our greatest potential for survival can only be achieved when we learn to live in peace, both with one another and with the Earth. We are interconnected and interdependent on each other. There are almost 8 billion people living on our planet. You cannot take an action that does not affect others, such as throwing plastic bottles and debris into the ocean, will pollute and negatively affect the shores of another country. Yet, if we can show acts of kindness to people, we can inspire others to do the same, spreading kindness far and wide. As Albert Einstein stated, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. There are international agreements between countries about the use of nuclear weapons to promote global peace. Diplomacy has yielded a number of international agreements. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, or CTBT, bans testing. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, bans all nuclear weapons. The Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START, limits nuclear weapon use, and the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, bans further production. But not all countries have agreed to these treaties. The Golden Rule is found in each of the world's major faith traditions. It is the guiding principle for all human action. More and more youth are speaking out based on their ethical and faith journey for abolition of nuclear weapons. Peace is key to our human survival. Understanding this, we honor each year those who are most successful at promoting peace with a number of special awards: the Nobel Peace Prize, the World Peace Prize, the Student Peace Prize, and even an International Children's Peace Prize. Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons presents a Youth Award for Nuclear Disarmament each year in honor of the nuclear abolition legacy of former USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev and former U.S. Secretary of State George Shultz. In 2020, the award went to Kekeshan Basu, a youth activist, founder and president of Green Hope Foundation, a champion with United Nations human rights, and winner of the 2016 International Children's Peace Prize. Here is what you can do to help, as stated in the Hiroshima-Nagasaki Accord. If you are young, demand urgent governmental action before these weapons rob you and your children of a future. If you are a diplomat, keep pounding away on the fulfillment of legal commitments already contained in treaties in force that calls for the reduction and elimination of the threat posed by these weapons. If you are a religious leader, pray, preach, prophesy to stop the nuclear end of the world. If you are not informed on these matters, become educated, subscribe to a nuclear newsletter, and wake up. If you are a politician, join parliamentarians and leaders worldwide who are working to stop the modernization and expansion of the capacity of nuclear weapons in quality and quantity, and advance policies and legislation that reduces the threat of the use of weapons, stops their spread, and leads to their elimination. If you are a citizen, join a nuclear weapons abolition group, march in the streets, write letters, pray fervently, and demand institutions stop investing in the nuclear weapon industry. If you are a scientist, don't be used by politicians who champion nuclear stockpiles. Find solidarity in your ranks and reach across national boundaries to scientists in other countries. If you are an environmentalist, recognize that nuclear weapons are the immediate and ultimate threat to climate change. And if you are in a nation armed with nuclear weapons, join the other nuclear nations to establish a joint enterprise committed to working for the elimination of nuclear weapons. Let us finish what past generations aspired to create: a world free of nuclear weapons. For more information, visit our website www.voices-uri.org or email contact@voices-uri.org.